First, let's get a shot. So I'm going to start off with what we're using. I have here the little hand tool. I'm using the small 8mm socket, but I'm using an adapter with it so that I can use it on a ratchet, on a larger ratchet. For times when I can't use this, because what I'm going to be using that for is I'm going to take out these hex bolts here to change out the screens. So I'm going to be using this small piece here, and I've simply put the little adapter on the larger knob you see here so that it'll fit on the socket wrench. And here's the hand part for when I can't use the socket wrench because it's too long. I'm also using just a regular little screwdriver and my handy tool, nice pair of grip pliers. Here you can see the new screen and the gasket that I'm going to be placing it in. To start out, when you have a winter thaw, a lot of snow's been covering the area where you have an in-ground tank. A lot of the water sometimes seeps or works its way into the tank and mixes with the oil. What you want to do is use a product. One of the two that I like to use is water out, and it's for fuel oil tanks. Helps it absorbs the water and helps the fuel to burn cleaner. But today we're using hydrosoul fuel tank water absorber, because after the thaw we noticed that there was a mixture of water in the oil, and so we're changing everything out now. This happens again after heavy snow, heavy rains, floods. Sometimes you'll get water inside the tank. Now, as a result of that, here is the old filter. Here, let me go back for a second. I used just a regular adjustable wrench here to take the bolt out to remove this bottom base and the filter inside. Now, here I want to show you, this is the old filter, and if I can get a good shot of it, I'm going to press on the filter to see if you can see that water comes out of the filter. There, you can see. That's not the fuel oil itself, that's actually water draining from the filter as I press it or squeeze on it like a sponge. Okay. And let me show you. Let me just pour some out. There you can see that's just dirty water from sediment and all of the other stuff that seeps into the line. But we're not getting enough oil for proper flow. And it's also dirty, very dirty here. You can see the old, look at this, the old gasket. I'm going to clean this all up and then add the new filter. But before doing that, I'm going to go ahead and change out the screens, because the screens it's a little easier to change the screens out when you have the filter and everything already out. Okay. Okay, now, because of the positioning, and I am unable to reach this particular screw here, I've gone ahead and taken that 8mm socket head off and put it on the hand. And instead of the ratchet in, I'm loosening this one first, just enough so that I can remove it easily by hand. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out, and now place this one in the catch cup below so I know where all four of them are. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop that, again, that 8mm socket off, and I'm going to put that socket on the ratchet, and then that'll be easier to work with here now that I can actually get to. Here, let's see. Okay, let's tighten. I don't want to do that. Okay. Just a couple of turns and that'll come out. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just taking out the 4 hex bolts from here so I can remove the screen. So I'm going to be back in a second after I take those 2 bottom ones off. Okay, here on the top I skipped this, and I wanted to mention this. Here you can see this white foam that's seeping out now because I've loosened the top or removed the 2 top bolts. That would be the water combination mixture mixed in with the fuel oil, so you won't get a proper burn. You can see it here leaking off. It's more or less like a white or grayish color. There, you can see it better. So I'm going to continue again and remove the bottom bolts. Here, I've removed one of the bottom bolts. You can see it's pouring out. This is actually coming out of the boiler itself because I forgot to mention that you want to turn off your fuel oil line, the line that brings the fuel oil in from the outside. You can see our in and return lines. So you want to turn off the incoming line so you're not getting more oil coming into the house. That's why we have no drip coming from this piece where we've removed the filter. However, over here where the screen is, everything that was already inside past that point is now leaking out, and you can see it's pretty much coming out as just water. This is a result of again, water being in the tank. So we're going to drain this all out. Okay, here, this is fuel oil in a little container. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's not supposed to look like water. And that's what makes the boiler not run. Of course, the boiler can't run on water. So I'm still just draining it out. And then I'm going to do a little more by opening up and cleaning off the nozzle, changing the nozzle out, putting a new one in. Okay, it's slowed down now to just a drip, and I've gone ahead and removed those 2 bottom hex screws. So I'm going to open the case now to show you the old screen. Here, this is the old screen. As you can see the bubbles, that's actually the screen filtering water. And I'm going to just remove the old, put that down here, and now I'm going to pry off, which comes off very easily. Okay, the old gasket, and now I'm going to clean around the outside here before continuing. Okay, now I got that piece all cleaned up. Here's the old gasket and the old screen, and I'm going to replace that with the new gasket and new screen. Cleaned the area up, dried it off. But before I put all that back together, I'm going to go ahead now and use my grip pliers and loosen the bolt here. This retainer bolt here, I'm just going to loosen that, then screw this out. What I want to do is do this part first. Oh, that's a little tough. Okay, just want to get this off. And, okay, now just continue. I'm going to turn both together. Now this first one, I'm going to slide all the way back. And the second one I'm going to remove all together. Let me give you a better shot at that. Here's the line here that carries the oil on in, but I'm going to go ahead and remove this one because this is a bolt that holds your nozzle on the inside. So I'm going to remove this. Sorry, let me see. I'm going to be gentle, but I don't want to drop this and lose it. So I'm going to place this here with the old gasket, and now simply need my screwdriver. It should be handy. Here we are. Here on the top you've got your 2 hex bolts, but they have the little slit, so I'm going to just turn and loosen each one, and then I can open the top where the nozzle is. There we are. This one. Slide the flap back. Now, the second one. It's a little tough. It's on there pretty good. Let me see. That one's off. Get the screwdriver. There we are. Now, slide that one back. I'm going to move my little light back. So, I can simply lift up here in the cover, and I now have access to my nozzle. Okay, so since I had gone ahead already and removed that container bolt, let me simply reach inside, gently pull this piece in through the hole. Now give it simply a counterclockwise turn and lift the nozzle out. And this is what your nozzle looks like, or at least what my nozzle looks like. Now I'm going to show you something also. That water that was in the line, it should also drip freely now. Since I've pulled that piece, let's see if I can get a shot of that. Yeah, there we are. So, here in the front is your nozzle. I'm going to remove the silver part. Very gently remove the silver part and replace that. That's the tip of the nozzle. For now, I'm not going to be adjusting the electrodes, the 2 ends here. I am going to clean this one off though a little bit. And you want to be, again, very, very careful of the ceramic, the white ceramic pieces. They're easy to damage. So, I'm going to go ahead and remove the nozzle and put a new one in. Okay, I've used 2 adjustable wrenches to remove the nozzle, and I've also cleaned off the electrodes here and cleaned out the inside here. Here's the new nozzle. I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. I can just set this up over here like this so I can have a free hand. Here, simply screws back in, and I'm just going to turn it hand tight and then make sure I tighten it well with using the 2 adjustable wrenches again. So, place both wrenches on. Okay, it's good. Now I'm going to take a little inspection look on the inside. I'm going to do a little light cleaning here. I'm going to clean the end of that copper hose that connects to the end of our nozzle here. Okay, gone ahead, used both of my adjustable wrenches, and I placed the new nozzle in, and it's nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in place. Okay, I've gone ahead and cleaned up a little bit inside the motor compartment, and I placed the nozzle just back inside, and I'm going to go ahead. Here's that end that extends out through the wall. I'm just going to work that in using the other hand. I'm going to work that in to the hole and then slide that into position. Now, with it set and in the hole, I can simply slide it out and reconnect the pieces that I taken off earlier. So now that nut that I wanted to take off here, I'm going to put that back on. That's going to hold this in place so it doesn't slide. Okay. Now, let me just move the light over here. You can get a better sight of it. Here, like this. Okay. Now, let me turn that away from like this. That's better. Now, there's that little arm sticking out. I'm simply going to pull the copper piece back and realign like so, just to get it on so I can start turning. And it's working. Here. Now, that's set up. I'm going to come on over and finish connecting the copper tube. Simply goes through and you simply tighten the bolt back in place. Okay, now with everything back in place, you want to make sure that it's tight because you don't want oil, of course, coming in, filtering around, and then leaking out from here. So you want to make sure that's tight. Check your nozzle inside, make sure it doesn't move. And now I'm going to close it back up. Just lift the lid up, close it down, slide the retainer over, slide the second one over, and then use my screwdriver to keep the retaining bolt in place. Here, and the second one, and we're done. Okay, now this piece back in place, this line reconnected. Now you want to move backwards to your screen. Now first, I'm going to take the screen, the gasket, because a lot of times it's a little hard to line it up with the 4 bolts. As you can see them here. So what I'm going to do, just place this on to give you a shot of what it looks like. Okay. Here, the 3 at the top lines up, 3 holes here at the top, even though there's only 2 bolts being used on each corner. Here, just place it on. And now, on top of that, I'm going to place the new screen. Then, you want to simply slide your cover back over and reassemble by putting all 4 of your hex bolts back in place. Last one. Okay, now I've got the 4 hex bolts back in place and I'm just going systematically around tightening. This one. Okay, now with all 4 hex bolts in place, I'm going to use that same 8mm socket to remove this little screw here because there's a small gasket underneath that I'm going to change out also. So, let me just go ahead and pull this out. Underneath this screw here is the small gasket that's on the screw. I'm going to change that out also. And there's another gasket that's going to go on the nut that's here. This is the old one. I'm going to change that out also. These kneaded gaskets come with the new filter already in the bag. Here's the old small one. I've gone ahead and put the new one on, and here is the new gasket for this area, and the old one's still on the old nut, so I'm going to start putting these back together now. Here we have that filter cup all cleaned out, and I've gone ahead and primed it by adding some fresh oil to it. And I'm going to take the new, here, this is the new strainer. Let's just put this in, this new strainer filter. And I'm going to add the gasket. Put that in place. Now, here, let me just sit this here for a second. Here, this is the retaining bolt for it. I've gone ahead and added that new gasket to the bolt. Here's the old one. And I'm going to just put this in place by sliding it through the top here and letting it rest. That way, as I lift up here at the bottom, I can guide the screw right up inside of here and then begin to tighten it up. Here's a little something also. When these filters are new, they need to be compressed into place. So what I like to do, as I did, I hang this bolt straight down, then guide the bottom up and guide the screw in, and then force with my hand by lifting up until, because there's going to be resistance inside from the filter itself, but you want to press up until the gasket makes a seal, and then begin turning the screw until it tightens down. Hand tight, and then of course you want to reinforce that tightness with either your grip pliers or an adjustable wrench. Okay, once I've got everything back in place, what I want to do now is turn back on the line to bring the oil back into the house again. The oil then filtering through, going through the filter, then through the screens, and then out to the nozzle. So before I'm doing that though, I want to make sure that I'm getting actual fuel. So what I've gone ahead and done is open up the bleed valve here at the bottom. And once I turn the boiler on, instead of the oil going all the way in, it's going to come out here. And that way I should be able to purge any water from the line and to know if I'm getting more water than fuel or not. Okay, we're purging air, and now that's better, now that's bad. Okay. So I'm going to run this for a while. It looks like there's a bit of water built into that line, more than likely. And I'm going to run that through. And once that clears up a little better, we'll try and start the boiler.